Thank you, Deputy Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just say what a pleasure it is for me to be afforded an opportunity to share with you some reflections on the approach being taken by my country, Jamaica, to finance the 2030 Agenda. Jamaica's SDGs implementation is set against a historically challenging economic environment, which is characterized by high levels of indebtedness. The result has been underdeveloped physical infrastructure and an imbalanced economy in which local private sector investment has been crowded out by government borrowing. The government has traditionally absorbed much of the economy's lending capacity, which led to increased interest rates, raising the cost of capital for the local private sector. This in turn retarded business expansion and job creation and led to prolonged bouts of high inflation and currency devaluation, which destroyed rather than created value for the private sector and for individuals. Although these practices have been addressed by macroeconomic policy adjustment, the resultant overhang remains a drag on available budgetary resources and continues to retard the local private sector's participation in domestic investment activity. Indeed, Jamaica's local private sector debt remains one of the lowest among emerging market economies. This partly results from the low trust levels which the private sector results in low trust levels within the private sector, which has endured a prolonged period in which the country has suffered anemic economic performance and weak public policy credibility. In this context, Jamaica needs to look beyond traditional methods of domestic resource mobilization and seek new and innovative ways to finance our SDGs commitments. We recognize that the mobilization of domestic resources through tax revenues will remain of critical importance. Efforts have been placed on tax and customs administration reform to secure the efficient collection of taxes and import duties, the curtailment of discretionary tax waivers, and the broadening of our tax base. We will continue to utilize PPPs, guided by the principles of optimal risk transfer, achieving value for money for the public, being fiscally responsible, and maintaining probity and transparency. The government is examining options for implementing various forms of green fees as a method of raising additional revenue, in particular for investments in environmental conservation. We are assessing other means of mobilizing investment for SDG implementation, such as debt for nature swaps and diaspora bonds. Jamaica has already benefited from our debt for nature swaps through activities related to the management and conservation of our forest resources. We are now seeking to take advantage of future financing opportunities of a similar nature. Jamaica is believed to have a fair chance of success in issuing diaspora bonds, given the large percentage of our citizens that live outside the countries. And I should say, there's only 2 countries in the world that I know that have ever been successful in issuing diaspora bonds, which is India and Israel. We believe we have a chance of mobilizing increased development financing using this method. We are also interested in working with our development partners to pursue debt for climate change swaps, which hold potential for providing bilateral and multilateral relief for climate change adaptation and mitigation efforts. Blue economy investment is another area of potential, as several SIDS countries are now exploring options for catalyzing new investments in ocean health and ecosystems. In terms of the UN agency's support to Jamaica's development agenda, the current effort to ensure that the UN development system is transformed to become a preeminent thought leader, able to disseminate high-level upstream policy support to governments, is precisely what is required in relation to SDG integration and sequencing. In conclusion, I will make a brief reference to the Group of Friends of Sustainable Development Financing that was established by my Canadian colleague and I last year. The group consists of 60 ambassadors drawn from a diverse range of countries. We collaborate with private investors, philanthropic organizations, think tanks, and academia, as well as various UN departments and agencies. We recognize that domestic resource mobilization and international public finance by themselves will not be sufficient to close the SDG financing gap. The group is focused, therefore, on unlocking the global pool of private investment capital, mindful, however, that development outcomes do not automatically follow financial inputs. Thank you.